So important. The rich musical lineage of African Americans in South Carolina will be celebrated at this year's Jubilee Festival. Historic Columbia is sponsoring the event next week. Well, this year's festival will celebrate Midland's musicians and the lives of two of the region's most influential artists, John Blackwell and Skip Pearson. Now, both men passed away earlier this year, and to honor the memory of these legendary artists, Jubilee will showcase the musical lineage of South Carolina with a headlining performance by Sherry Marie, who was personally inspired and had close relationships with both of those artists. So this week we want to talk about the Jubilee Festival and why it's so important. Brian, thank you again for always supporting this show and helping us each and every week. And I know you've been to the Jubilee Festival a time or two yourself.
Of course. There's been a few of them, as you know. 39 years. Great festival. And a great time to learn about history, about localized South Carolina and even regional history. And this year, too, just pointing out the contributions of the late John Blackwell and Skip Pearson, two just immensely talented men that went on and did great things, but always remembered the folks back home.
That's right.
You know?
Well, you know, Mary knows a little bit about that. Mary Graham Grant or Grant Grant? Okay, I said it right the first time. And Mary, you've been working on the committee for a long time. Mr. Quinn, of course, James Quinn has also been so instrumental in leading this effort. So we want to talk to you all in the first part of the show about why it's important. We teased it a little bit with our audience, but we want you all to talk about the importance of it. And I've been so many years, and I'm excited to have you all here today. So tell us a little bit.
Well, this festival coming up on Saturday the 16th is a great festival that explores all kinds of aspects of the history of the African American community here in Columbia, from cultural features to music to food to history itself. There are so many great things at this free festival for folks to enjoy.
And that's the thing, it is free.
Yeah,
and I
you said the magic word.
Yeah, and I did mention that in the beginning. I don't know that we have a free festival that is all-inclusive in the way that this one is.
Yeah, and there's so many different things on display and that are offered for every age group, really.
Yeah, this is a very family-friendly festival. There are a lot of great things and activities for kids to do. There's craft activities that explore different aspects of African American and African history. There's demonstration artists like Mary out there showcasing historic crafts. Great family-friendly music. Every kind of different genre that you can think of. Again, there's lots of great things for families and kids to do together. So if you're looking for something for parents and kids to actually interact with each other and not just stare at a video game screen something like that, this is the festival to be at.
Well, Mary, you do demonstrations, so...
She's doing one right now.
Right now. Tell us a little bit about all of this lovely artwork that we have in front of us and this art form itself.
Okay, this is sweetgrass. And sweetgrass baskets originated in Africa when the slaves were brought to this country. This was a type of basketry that they brought with them. But when they came, they couldn't find the materials they used, so they found materials in South Carolina, and they found the sweetgrass, they found bulrush, and bulrush is a type of material Moses was putting the river in, and we use strips of palmetto. So all of the materials that are used are from the Low Country. So it's South Carolina history as well as African American history.
You know, Brian, when I travel, I see these baskets being sold all over the country, and they come from right here.
Yeah, and they're beautiful.
They are
and
beautiful.
They're durable. That is another thing about them, but the work that goes into this is just amazing.
It is time consuming, and that's one of the requirements of making sweetgrass basket is you have to have patience. It takes a lot of time and patience to do it. If you've got patience, you can do it.
When I am at the Jubilee Festival, I'm taken by the number of people and the diversity of the crowd. How do you manage that?
Well, the festival has certainly grown the last few years. We had over 6,000 people join us last year at the festival.
I was wondering.
And you know, I think with the resurgence of energy in downtown Columbia and throughout the city itself, you go downtown any weekend now, and there's just so much energy down there. And so at Jubilee, there's a great festival environment. There's lots of energy downtown, and folks from all over the region come and join us at this festival because they know how great it is to be in Columbia nowadays.
I bet, Mary, you get a lot of people who want to watch you do what you do. Do you ever teach people?
Yes, other than just standing there watching, we do have a lot of people doing that, but we also, well, I also have people who actually sit down and do hands-on. They get a piece that I've already started for them. They get a nail bone, and this is the tool that they actually work with. It's a spoon or fork with the end cut off, and it's called a nail bone. And the original nail bone was a rib from a large animal. And they get that and they actually work on it. They actually finish something so they can sit down and take something away that they've actually made themselves.
You know, Brian, it sits on a very historic site.
Yeah.
So it's like hallowed ground around there.
Yes, it is. And we have so many of these type of sites in our midst and drive by them every day, probably don't even know what we're driving by is a significant piece of local history. And that's another good thing I think that can be highlighted by this, just the location itself.
Yeah, the Man Simon site, the family, we can trace their roots back to the 1820s at this site. And so there's very rich history there. And the fact that it stays in ownership of the same family generation after generation all the way up until 1970 gives us a very rich story about the family and the individuals who lived there, what they were doing for work, how they were living. The archaeology digs uncovered lots of artifacts that tell us the story about everyday interactions in their life. What kind of spices they were using in their food versus what kind of combs they had or toys for the children. We see all of that as we uncover the history at this site.
In the next segment, we're going to talk to W.E. Lyles and Sherry Marie, two of the entertainers that are going to be at the festival. I am wondering how you went about selecting these artists.
Well, you know, every year we take a look at, you know, what's the mission that we want to get across. And knowing that we lost these two wonderful artists who were nationally known this year, we said we really want to make sure that we're showcasing Columbia's rich musical talent. And so for us, we said, let's highlight local musicians. Let's find the folks who can trace their roots back here to Columbia and the Midlands area. And so that's kind of really drove our selection of artists this year.
Well, we're going to wrap up this segment and bring them on, but I want to congratulate you. You put that committee together and diligently worked for months to get us where we are.
Yes, it takes a whole year to plan this festival, that's for sure.
Mary, thank you so very much.
Thank you for
Can
having
we
me.
keep your artwork on the set even though we're going to have other guests coming on?
Sure you can.
We'll give them back to you.
It needs to be displayed. You got a lot of work to do.
When we come
Okay.
back, thank you.
Thank you.
When we come back, we'll continue our conversation about the 39th Annual Jubilee Festival and why it's so important. Stay tuned.